Okay, so I should be live now. I have been wanting to do this video for a long time and I actually forgot. So there is this very long track record of a debate between Arminians and Calvinists and Christians all alike on what does it mean in the Old Testament in the Tanakh when Yahweh hardens Pharaoh's heart. What exactly does that mean? Why did God do it? And you will have commentators trying to explain, right, what happened. As a matter of fact, I might be able to get some explanations that don't really match up. So, for example, if you go on Google and you type, why did God harden, right, Pharaoh's heart? Right. So now I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. So I'm sharing my screen now. You guys should be able to see. Boom. Okay. Why did God harden Pharaoh's heart? Right. The great Egyptian Jewish scholar Maimonides, I cannot pronounce this. Maimonides, I think that's how you pronounce it. Maimonides argued that God hardens Pharaoh's heart as punishment for previous sins, while Martin Luther interprets God's interface as a necessary demonstration of divine power. Right? So you'll get these different interpretations of why did God harden Pharaoh's heart, right? If you go to gotquestions.org, which I think gotquestions.org is good for the basics, but if you want to get into the deep nitty gritty of Semitic studies and the ancient Near Eastern interpretation of your Bible, gotquestions.org ain't going to cut it. But this is what gotquestions.org says. First, Pharaoh was not an innocent or godly man. He was a brutal dictator overseeing the terrible abuse and oppression of the Israelites, who likely number over 1.5 million people at the time. The Egyptian pharaohs had enslaved the Israelites, and then they go on second, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, let's get to the point. It could be as a result of Pharaoh's hard-heartedness. God hardened Pharaoh's heart even further, allowing for the last few plagues and bringing God's full glory into view, right? So this is like somewhat of like the Calvinistic answer as to why did God harden Pharaoh's heart, right? But I'm going to be honest with you guys, that ain't the answer. That's not exactly what's going on in the mind of these ancient Near Eastern people. Remember, the Bible was written for us, but we are not the direct immediate audience of the Bible. The Bible was not written to us. The Bible's for us, but it ain't written directly to us. We are not the immediate audience of the Tanakh, right? We lived 3,000 years from away from these people. So we have to try and figure out what is going on in their minds, what's going on in the mind of the audience, what's going on in the mind of the author, and how is it relevant. With that to say, so I'm actually going to read from the Bible text. I'm going from Exodus 9:12 just to give some context and just to show you guys where it's at. So, uh, God hardened Pharaoh's heart a couple of times, but I'm going to read from. Hey, what's up, One Way? I'm going to read from Exodus 9:12. But the Lord hardened the heart of the Pharaoh, and he did not listen to them as the Lord has spoken to Moses. So just highlighting that right there. Okay, boom. So you have this situation where God hardened Pharaoh's hearts. But why? Why is God hardening the heart of the Pharaoh? What is going on? Context, context, context. So this is a article from the Times of Israel, and it has a couple different views as to what's going on. The weighing of the heart, right? Vera Covenant and Conversation 5780, right? And the author of this article name is Jonathan Sachs, right? And he writes this. right? However, there is one specific aspect of Egyptian belief that opens up an entirely new perspective on the references to Pharaoh's heart. According to Egyptian myth, the deceased, and sorry about this, somebody's playing music in the background. Where was I at? Yeah, music is really distracting. However, there is one specific aspect of Egyptian belief that opens up an entirely new perspective on the references to Pharaoh's heart. According to Egyptian myth, the deceased underwent a trial to establish their worthiness or otherwise to enjoy life after death in Aru, the field of reeds, where souls live on in pleasure for eternity. They believed that the soul resides in the heart, and the trial consisted of the ceremony of the weighing of the heart. Other organs were removed after death, but the heart was left because it was needed for the trial. On one side of the scales was a feather, on the other was placed the heart. If the heart was as light as a feather, the dead could continue to Aru. But if it was heavier, it was devoured by the goddess Amet, a combination of lion, hippopotamus, and crocodile. And its owner was condemned to live in Duat, the underworld. An illustration on papyrus in the Book of the Dead shows the ceremony undertaken in the Hall of Two Truths, overseen by Anubis, the Egyptian god of the dead. It follows that the root kavad, to make heavy, would have had a highly specific meaning for the Egyptians of that time. It would imply that Pharaoh's heart had become heavier than a feather. He would fail the heart weighing ceremony and therefore be denied what was most important to him, the prospect of joining the gods in the afterlife. No one would have been in any doubt as to why this was so. The feather represented Mayat, the central Egyptian value that included the concepts of truth, balance, order, harmony, justice, morality, and law. Not only was this fundamental to Egyptian culture, it was the task of the pharaoh to ensure that it prevailed. This had been an Egyptian principle since 1,000 years before the Exodus, found in pyramid texts dating from the 3rd millennium BCE. Mayat meant cosmic order. Its absence invited chaos. A pharaoh whose heart had become heavier than the Mayat feather was not only endangering his own afterlife, but threatening the entire people over whom he ruled with turmoil and disarray. So basically, all of this to say, right? There was a belief, right, in Egypt that when a person died, when a pharaoh died, they would be judged by either Amet. So you have the scales of Amet, but there's another version of that where you have the scales of Mayat. Now Mayat, I could have sworn I actually had Mayat down here. Mayat was a goddess who she had bird feathers and she had a feather on her head. And here she is right here. And so, whichever version of the story or the mythos you want to take, it was either Mayat or Amet, right? Typically, it was Mayat because that was the more popular version. Mayat would take her feather out of her head. She would take the heart of the pharaoh out of his chest and she would place it on scales. And his heart would be weighed against the scale of Mayat. And if your heart was heavier than the feather of Mayat, then your heart would be deemed a heart of stone, and you would not be worthy to enter into the afterlife. So, in the text, when you see that the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, what that means is that the God of Israel is doing what only the God of Egypt was supposed to do. that it wasn't Mayat or Amit who weighed the heart, but in fact, it was the God of Israel who weighed the heart and placed judgment on men. So this isn't necessarily about God hardening Pharaoh's heart so he can bring glory to him. And I mean, sure, you could interpret it that way. That's a very basic understanding. That's a very basal understanding. But there's a lot more going on to the text than God did this, therefore Arminianism, blah blah blah. God did this, therefore Calvinism, blah blah blah. We have to go deeper than the 1500s when it comes to our Bible. We got to go deeper than the 1300s. We have to go ancient. We have to go into these pyramid texts, into these 3,000-year-old references that we wouldn't understand today, because the Bible was not written to us. It's for us. We can benefit from it. It's definitely a lot of wisdom in it that surpasses time. But the Bible was not written directly for people in the 21st century audience. So that's what it means in the biblical text when either Pharaoh hardens his own heart or that the God of Israel hardened Pharaoh's heart. It is a Egyptian reference to Egyptian gods like Amen and Mayat, who weigh the heart of the king on the great scales. So hopefully I was able to give you guys some backdrop into that. I've been wanting to do a video like this for a while, but I just been forgetting. I thought I did a video like this, and I looked at my video section, and I'm like, oh, I actually didn't make a video about this before. So that's that. On that note, I'm gonna probably make another video soon, shortly, on some other things, but share this video around. This content is not out there. Like the content that I'm usually giving out, probably only like 10%, maybe 20% of people know, if that, if even that, right? If 10% even know. So with that being the case, my laptop is about to die. And I think I gave you guys some fair value. Share this video around and let people know what God hardening Pharaoh's heart actually means. It's a reference to Mayah and Amit. And until next time, good luck. And I can't say good night because it's not nighttime yet, but good luck and good afternoon.